Yo guys, Jen here back with more Marvel Rivals content. Today's video I'll be showing you the best tank gameplay possible for each individual Vanguard in this game, the 4th episode of this series and to my channel, and this episode will be for Magneto, showing you the best gameplay possible. Now to remind you guys, in case you haven't seen the previous 3 episodes, the catch of this series is that I have to earn the Lord icon on each of the heroes to be shown in this series before I can even consider uploading them to the channel. So as you can imagine, this will take some time to get completed, but I'm always up for that challenge, and in this video I'll be giving you advice on how best to use the hero, the strengths and weaknesses, the do's and the don'ts from my own experiences all the way throughout, as well as any tips I've learned along the way for both the character in general, but also on how best to earn the Lord icon in the most efficient and fastest way possible. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. So first things first, just like a general overview of Magneto, he is probably the best and most reliable and consistent Vanguard in the entire game. To be clear, this is not a guide on Magneto, how to use his abilities, what they do, all of that sort of stuff. I've already made one of those prior, so that is linked in the description below for any newer players to the game who want to maybe learn more about Magneto and want to be able to use him themselves. As for everyone else who's already aware of Magneto, his combination between defensive and offensive skills make him a standout Vanguard in this game, who's arguably been a top 3 tank right since the start of the game. His shields, both the curtain and the bubble, allow him to effectively block damage and protect teammates from incoming projectiles, as well as ultimate abilities, whilst also his primary attack and rings allow him to damage ranged and grounded players, as well as flying heroes as well, alleviating dive pressure and sniping those backline players, making him the perfect all-round tank in my opinion. And it also just so happens that he's one of the easiest in the game to both learn and use at the standard sort of casual level, and of course at the highest level he's definitely got some unique kit and ability management which elevates him above other Vanguards, but for most part he's just easy enough to understand and use, especially for newer players. Like I said, I've got him Lord, of course he wouldn't be in the series otherwise, and throughout that journey I will share gameplay from me sort of at the start, and hopefully towards the end you can see that I've slightly got better over time, but for the most part you just kind of use the same 3 abilities in the grand scheme of things, which again I'll go over in this video. Now as for the system and the meta of which he works in, Magneto in my opinion is literally one of the only few heroes who works in every single system or team composition in this entire game. Like, there's no team comp where he is not viable. As a strong and easy to use Vanguard, he's capable at solo tanking, shutting down support ultimates. He works alongside every other tank in the entire game in a 2-tank system, complementing dive or brawling tanks as well as other shielding tanks as well. So what I mean is, if anyone knew, he works on his own. He could be a shielding solo Vanguard if you wanted to play him, or he could work alongside a Strange, he could work alongside an Emma or a Groot who are shielding tanks, he could work alongside a Hulk, a Thing, or maybe a Venom or a Cap or a Thor. Any tank in this game he works really well alongside because he complements their defensive abilities by giving them shields and bubbles, but also being able to use ranged abilities, protecting his supports, and using his ultimate in his back pocket to shut down other enemy support ultimates, stopping them and winning team fights. All of that sort of stuff makes him a real standout and is why he can be used pretty much on his own. Now as for his strengths and weaknesses, I'd say Magneto has many, as I've already discussed. Being able to shut down support ultimates makes him an incredibly important and meta-worthy sort of hero, as well as his bubble ability being so effective at protecting teammates, especially those squishies from one-hit combos or ultimate abilities as well, and really sort of paying off, making sure that your teammates stay in the fight, and especially your supports, that will allow you to win team fights and win your games more effectively. Like, protecting them is an absolute must, but you can also use your ultimate as well to absorb Iron Man ults, hit Punisher with it when he's about to use his ult. You could use it to absorb a sort of Star-Lord's ult. There's so many different versions or varieties of which you can shut down other team ultimates in this game and then use it to deal damage after. It's insane. It's a really vital ultimate to have in a team composition, especially at a higher level. Like, as for his weaknesses, I'd say he lacks mobility versus a player like Thor or Wolverine style hero, as I'd say he could be separated far easier than other Vanguards in this game, especially by these 2 sort of counters, if you want to say. If you've seen episode 3 in the series, you'll know that I have Thor Lord already, and from my experience, Magneto players were pretty much the easiest for me to sort of both isolate and pick off from the group. So whenever I played Thor, that was before, bear in mind, I got Thor sort of Lord really early in the game, so this was before Emma Frost was in the game, so that new team ability kind of allows him to be a bit immune to this now. So whenever you see a Mag and a sort of an Emma in a team comp, with the team ability, with the bubbles, with the diamond form, all of that combination basically allows him to sort of be immune to that, into a sense. Not fully, but it definitely shuts it down and stops it being so effective. Whereas before, if you had a Groot on your team and you were playing Thor, you would basically be able to use Groot's walls, pull Mag back, and then pretty much your whole team could just separate him and isolate him and basically pick him off, and you'd have a numbers advantage in team fights really easily and consistently in that way. Whereas I don't think it plays the same way anymore. Like I said, I got Thor Lord really early in this game. Like I said, that is episode 3 of this series if you guys want to go check it out, in case you guys weren't aware of Thor and all of the best and do's and don'ts and my advice from my own experience. All that sort of stuff, and my rankings personally of Thor and the character. Of course, he has had a couple of lots of reworks, so he does work completely different. So maybe in terms of his counter now with Magneto, I don't think he necessarily is, even if without the Emma. But we'll have to see how that plays out. If you guys sort of have any opinions on that, you guys can tell me otherwise. Let me know down below in the comments, because like I said, I haven't played him for quite some time. And even Mag, I haven't played Mag for quite some time. I pull him out in competitive when needed. Whenever the team needs me to go to a tank, a set tank, I can play all of them. That's what I like to do. I'm a tank main. I like to be able to use every Vanguard in this game at the highest level, and that's kind of my goal, and that's kind of what I guess what sort of started the purpose of this series, because Lord farming was already something I'm doing in the background for every hero, but at the same time, the tanks have been a sort of main priority for me. Like, the last thing I ever wanted to be was a one trick. I didn't want to have like 2 or 3 of each different category and then not be able to use them, especially when someone's like banned. For example, Emma. I've been using Emma a lot lately. I'm really close to getting her to Lord, but sometimes she gets banned at the comp level, actually quite often, and therefore you want to be able to switch it out. You want to be able to use different Vanguards. You want to be able to use a similar style or a different style, depending on, of course, who your other teammate is. If your teammate's playing Venom or he's playing Thing, you maybe want to go to another shielding style tank that's similar to Magneto, or you may want to go dual dive and dual brawl, like another Hulk or maybe a Captain America. It's just about having that variety and that sort of expanding that pool of different heroes that I can use. And I guess Magneto was one of the earlier ones that I used and fell in love with. He's really easy to use, like I said, and really effective and most sort of dominant, I would say, arguably throughout the entire game. Like, he just hasn't been nerfed other than this recent season where he got the slightest nerf on his bubble. Other than that, for the most part, he just has been so well-rounded for literally forever in this game, and it just sort of makes him a real standout, especially if you can use his kit properly. You know how to protect your teammates really well defensively. You know how to use his ultimate and catch out Cloak and Daggers and Invisible Woman and Mantis with his ultimate. All of these sort of things will allow you to go to that higher level and that next level, and also being able to sort of play the solo tank role. That's sort of, despite using just Magneto, you could do it with any other Vanguard that can solo tank, of course, but being able to solo tank is like a real skill gap that a lot of players just don't quite understand. They heavily rely on 3 supports, or they heavily rely on another tank to be able to be effective. If you can solo tank with Magneto, you'll really sort of step up your game and allow your supports to have a much easier time if you know how to not push too far ahead, if you know how to stick back and peel back for your supports, protecting them, using your bubbles, use the curtain. All of this sort of stuff is allowing you to go to that next level. These are all the sort of things that I learned going to Lord and getting him to Lord that you basically have to pick up along the way, because of course I've got 20 plus hours on this character, and like, it is probably my most played character in all of Marvel Rivals in itself. I'd say I think I used him the most when I was at Celestial, that sort of level. Like, this is the character that I sort of had to use at times in order to sort of benefit my teammates, because there was at the time I was using Mag, like I said, I got him Lord quite early. There wasn't an Emma, there wasn't a Thing, and I wasn't really comfortable. I still am not really using Hulk or Captain America at that sort of level, whereas the other heroes, that it was either you want to use someone similar like Strange, who I could use definitely, that was sort of my backup, or I would have to use a different style or different role, like I said, because Thing wasn't out and nor was Emma, and I wasn't really good at Groot or Hulk at that time. So just back to the video, like I said, at that level, that is definitely where you have to sort of appreciate where your strengths and weaknesses are, what your understanding is of that character, who he works well with, and of course Magneto literally ticks all of those boxes. So as for the do's and the don'ts, like, firstly, I would say avoid pushing too aggressively. I just sort of touched on it a little bit. When you're not backed up by your teammates, you don't have a third sort of healer, and you're not in a 3 healer comp, or when you're solo tanking, due to his mobility, if you're caught out, you are going to get isolated, or even when you're under crowd control from an ultimate or any sort of stunning ability, you are too reliant on your healers and can easily be picked off. So I wouldn't say this is a good strategy to take on board. Therefore, you should probably make sure you're sort of prioritizing your awareness and your positioning. As a Vanguard, that is an absolute must from my own experiences. Now, another one is the ultimate ability. Do not waste this ultimate. A lot of players never really understood whether it's best to save it because you're trying to get value out of it, or because you don't want to hold on for it too long. So sometimes you'll find that you're just having it in your pocket for way too long. At the higher level, that's never the case, because you'll see ultimates come out from the supports really often, and for the most part too quick that you won't even have yours yet. But for the most part, in quick play, if we're talking about sort of casual experiences, it depends how you want to look at it. If you want to be valuable for your team and you want to be a good team member, save it in your back pocket. But of course, as for the Lord icon, which I'll get into in just a second, you actually want to be using it as frequently as possible. But we'll get onto that in a minute, because like I said, you can use his ultimate to basically pick out the likes of Cloak and Dagger, Invisible Woman, or Mantis in their ultimates and stop them from basically having a heal ult, and it basically allows you to have that numbers advantage pretty much, because you're going to win the team fight more often than not with the ultimate waves. And then also, you can also, like I said earlier in the video, you can use it to absorb damage from Star-Lord or Iron Man, or even throw it at Punisher as he's using his ult. It will kill him every single time once you've absorbed the tiniest bit of damage. Using this too prematurely can basically leave your team vulnerable in team fights if you don't get any value out of your ultimate, so don't waste it. Use it in the right opportunities. Of course, you will mess up at times. I've done it loads of times. I've had my entire team slandering me when I've missed it on a Cloak and Dagger. It happens, sometimes the Cloak and Dagger will just go somewhere really smart and you won't be able to get her. Or sometimes you would just simply miss. It's not going to be perfect every single time. Just try and get the best value out of it, and that's all you can do for the most part. And then also, as for the do's, save your bubble ability, in my opinion, for teammates as much as possible. Try avoid using this on yourself, of course, unless you have to and you're isolated or whatever it may be, or you're trying to protect yourself from getting Winter Soldier pulled or whatever it may be from crowd control. Just protect yourself at times, but for the most part, try and prioritize your teammates. And then, of course, you can rely on your curtain to protect you from incoming damage as well as the rest of your team behind you. And then as for like personal advice and stuff like that in my own experiences, Magneto has never failed to provide consistency for any team comp that I've played in throughout the various different seasons and metas. I've nearly got all Vanguards to Lord at this point, as I'm a Vanguard main, as I've said all along, and I'd say he's definitely the best and easiest to use in my opinion, still to this day, even like I said, with that slightest nerf. And I'm a big fan of this character, but even bias aside, I wouldn't say like he's my favorite or anything like that, and I wouldn't say I'm best with him versus all of the other Vanguards, so it's not like I'm being biased into that. I just think he is so well-rounded and so consistent. I think a lot of players at the higher level will definitely agree with that. He does take a lot of skill to play at the higher elos, so don't get me wrong, but the thing is with me and Magneto is, like I said, I got him Lord quite early on, and once I'm at the higher ranks, I've not already got him Lord, so now I try and actively avoid using a character once I've got them to Lord, unless of course my team needs me to. Like if any point I need to, I will never compromise my team or winning. Like I will always pull out a character when it's needed or right, but there's so many different versions of this character. Like you can use Strange, who's similar of, again, I've got him Lord as well, he is episode 2 in the series, but I then mainly use Emma at this point, or Groot, other shielding style tanks who are really good in this game still as well, so I typically use them. But of course, if I have to use Magneto, I always will. Like I said, I'll never compromise my team, but I actively try and avoid them because one, I'm trying not to use characters that I've already got Lord because I'm trying to expand my hero pool and almost like force myself to use characters I'm not so comfortable with. Like I said, at the higher level, that's not necessarily a good idea, but I know how to use all of the Vanguards in this game, so it's not like I'm using a brand new hero or anything like that. Like I said, they're all nearly Lord, so it's not a matter of me using a hero for the first time. It's purely me trying to use characters I'm not so comfortable with and pushing myself out of my comfort zone so that I can try and develop an understanding for all of the characters and be able to use any and all Vanguards in the game, so that when a new one comes out, I can then spend all my time focusing on just that one, knowing I've got all of the others in my back pocket for whenever I need to. That is the sort of development and the mindset I've got with Vanguards. And then also the second reason is, as you said, I am Lord farming. In this series, the whole purpose of this is trying to get every hero Lord, so of course I don't want to be spending any extra time using characters that I've already got Lord unless I absolutely have to. But in quick play, I will never use a hero that I've already got Lord. That's just a sort of plain and simple rule that I've developed for myself in order to maximize and get the best chances to getting Lord on every single character. Now, as for grinding him to Lord, as I've just gone over that in a bit more depth, just a couple of little tips I would say that I've shared basically throughout the first 3 episodes so far in the series are as follows. Do not use just one hero. That's my personal advice. The number one thing. Don't ever use just one hero and just spend only 20 plus hours or whatever it may take you to get just using that one hero, because certain maps, certain modes, certain team compositions do not benefit all heroes, and that is not really a good or effective method. Like I said, if you're Lord farming in this, take this advice, because I promise you that it's not a good sort of mix or environment. If you guys are new to Call of Duty or you guys aren't aware, I play Call of Duty and it's similar in the sense that camo grinding, I know it's not relevant in the sense that they're 2 different titles, but the concept is about the same. Every time a new Call of Duty comes out, I grind all the master camos. That's just a standard thing that I do. And every single time I do it the fastest out of all of my friends and everyone I know. I'm like usually the first person to do it. That's a bit of a boast, but for the same time, it's because I do things like use different weapons for different maps and modes. It's the same concept here. Do not use the same hero if you're trying to get Lords on every character as fast as possible, or even every single role. Like if you're trying to do just Vanguards or whatever it may be, change it up, use different heroes, try and understand where they work best with different team compositions, who works well with them to like each hero, team up abilities, all of that sort of stuff will allow you to be better each hero. Like I have certain heroes like Captain America that I'll use on the Hydra map, and there's certain sort of heroes that I will use based on maps, based on my experience, based on what I understand the character being really effective at and stuff like that. These are the sort of things I would say if you're trying to Lord farm. That is like my number one tip that I would personally say. And also, if you're playing in like a less consequential environment such as quick play, I would suggest using Magneto's ultimate ability far often or more often and more frequent as possible as the hero specific Lord requirement. Every hero, in case you guys are new to this or don't understand, every hero in this game has a hero specific Lord requirement. So there's one at the bottom of every one, so the 4th item is always specific to the hero, and for Magneto, his one is to absorb damage using Meteor M, so his ultimate, and the more often or more frequently you're going to use this ultimate, the more damage you're going to absorb. So if you're trying to get Lord faster, and you're not worried about getting value every single time out of your ultimate, like I was in some of these clips, I'm just trying to use the ultimate for the most part to either gain clips to get like a 3-4 piece or whatever, and sometimes just trying to use it because I have it, but at the same time, if you're trying to get value, like I said all the way throughout this video, do not waste it. So it's a catch-22, it depends which way you want to look at it. If you're in a consequential environment where it's going to be like value to your rank and your team losing, don't do it. But if you don't really necessarily not care, but if you're not so worried about getting value and you don't necessarily have to back bucket it because your team's kind of running the other team, or you're just in quick play and no one really cares, or everyone's playing different heroes where it's not even going to be a win anyway, then I would definitely suggest using it. And then finally, use your shields as often as possible, as also blocking damage is one of major categories to earn Lord, and using a Vanguard, and using his shields allows you to do this faster than normal. But also another tip, peel for your supports. Protect them as a priority, not only because it's what you're meant to do and your teammates will love you better for this and how you also win games, but the longer they are alive, the more that you protect them, the longer they are alive, the more they'll heal you, and therefore the more damage you'll block for yourself, and that way you'll get Lord as quicker as possible, and the more KOs you'll probably rack up as well in team fights. So just bear that in mind as a general tip. But in summary, like I said, Magneto is one of the best and most consistent heroes in all of Marvel Rivals. Tell me if you guys disagree in the comments down below, if that is something that you don't agree with, but for the most part, he has been a well-rounded, easy to use, and really valuable hero in the entire game. If you've enjoyed the video, as always, do not forget to like and subscribe, and if you have any comments or thoughts about the game or the character in itself, or any cool clips that you want to share, let me know down below in the comments and I'll get right back to you. I'm Vision SGen. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.